Hi, Mary. Hello. Can you hear me? There you are. Hi.
Hi.
Have you done this kind of thing before?
No.
I'm not very good at it myself, but we're going to give this a try.
Okay.
Now, on my computer, if I talk, my picture gets big, and when you talk, your picture gets big. Is that how yours is working right now?
No, I see a little screen above your head that has my picture on it.
Okay. I think that there is a setting for that somewhere on your screen.
Okay.
So either in the top corner, I have mine set to gallery view. And
Okay.
then the bottom left-hand corner, there's a video setting too, but you can kind of look around and see.
Okay. So
It does. Go
I
ahead.
have it so I can see you on both sides. I can half is
Yay! Well, the important part is because I'm going to give a presentation, you want to be able to see what I'm presenting.
Okay.
But we'll have a little time once everybody gets on to talk to each other.
Okay.
And so if we can figure that out, we will. I'm not too worried about it, but right now, yeah, and I just put it on speaker view and then gallery view. Okay, and I'm not changing anything on yours, right?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So I can hear you just fine, which is a good thing. So there'll be five students and me, so 6 of us all together.
Okay. So will I see all 5 of them or just you and me?
You should be able to see all 5 of them.
Okay.
And whether or not they're going to be little pictures for you or bigger ones, hopefully we can all talk. And then I'll give the presentation and then we can have question time. But I've done this once before, but it's been a long time. So my skills are a little rusty.
Okay.
And we'll see how that goes. But so what's happening with you these days?
Not much. We have a duplex at it.
My computer just had a burp. You have a new what?
We have a duplex, and so we're getting ready to sell it.
Oh, is it where you live?
It's right next door.
Okay.
Our house, and then the duplex is right next door.
So you got a lot of are you like painting and things like that?
We're almost to the end.
Okay.
So
it's a lot of work though, and
painting's
always I like to paint, but it's a lot of prep work and different
things. That part I hired.
Oh, you did? Smart woman. Yes. Well, good. And then you get to pick your new neighbors, do you?
Well, I don't know. We're gonna tell a few friends that it's for sale, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay. I don't know that sometimes people even buy those for I don't know, investment.
Right.
So that can be a good thing. Where in East Peoria do you live? Are you?
Do you know where Glendale Grade School is?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Kind of.
If you go up the hill past Glendale Grade School, we live 1 mile out Bloomington Road on Apple Tree.
Okay. Okay, so you're pretty far out there, aren't you? I hear a bell, so I'm guessing somebody else is signing on. I don't know. I don't see them yet.
That's my phone.
Oh, that's your phone. Okay. The bell, the usual one, is kind of sounds like a doorbell to me. So
okay.
That's how I know somebody's signing on. So Leslie Guidry is also part of this, so that's really going to be nice to see her.
Good.
And then a lady that just took one of my workshops here, she's from Springfield. So I know 3 out of the 5 of you, which is lovely.
Cool.
At least if I fall on my face, you'll forgive me, I hope. That's my plan anyways.
Not a problem.
Well. Let's see. Were you able to get on the Schoology?
Yes,
site?
material printed out.
Do you? Okay, great. So this is all being recorded, and so I'll upload at least the link to this. So if you want to go back and rehear anything, plus the presentation I give, I'll put on there. I was sure not everybody wanted to have their video in public, so this is only a place that we can get to
Okay.
and watch. But when I did this before as a practice, that was one of the comments, that it would be nice to go back, and especially once you start warping, to be able to go back and look at it. If you had a question about a step. So we'll see.
Well, I'm going to put my dog in the kennel.
Okay.
So I will be right back. Okay.
It'll be a blank screen. All right. Well, we're still on wait for a little while.
Okay.
No hurry. Do you already have your yarn for your project?
I don't. I wanted to listen to you and see what you were doing, and then I would make a decision what I wanted to do.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see.
Are we supposed to do a scarf or what?
Oh, no, you can do whatever you want. I'm just here for the coaching.
Okay.
So, but we will work on it. Not necessarily, but I certainly can help you with that.
Okay.
And there are sites where you can go and get them. Do you have a weaving program at all on the computer that you use? Most people don't. Yeah. But it's easy enough to do. And if you want something, if you have something in mind, we can figure that out. It's not terribly hard to send you something, like a picture of one that you can get.
Okay.
So, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. But that is something, you've got to choose your pattern before you can, design your project, of course. So what have you woven? You were in that workshop that we were with, that double weave.
Correct. And I took the class out at your place.
Okay.
The GAMP camp.
Okay.
Okay.
So you've done twill. That was a twill, right?
Yeah. And I just did plain weave on something.
Okay. Is there anything in particular that you're interested in?
Something easy, something new to learn.
Okay. Well, that's wide open. Hey! I don't think people can hear us right away. Like, I think she can see us now.
Hi, guys.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
You have a friend with you, I see.
Yeah.
Or I hear, anyways.
Well, somebody must be walking by the front door.
Okay.
Oh, that wasn't yours?
It was mine, yeah, but she should hopefully be quiet.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. I do have a mute button too, so.
Hopefully it won't come to that.
Exactly, not a problem. And
How's
Mary,
the weather in the east?
Mary's here. Can you see her too?
Yeah, hi, Mary. I see you.
Hi, Leslie.
You're a little tiny. Squish your head. It's good to see you guys. I miss you.
It's nice to see you too. I'm glad you could do this. This was awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. So how's the weather been in New York?
It's actually been better than where you guys are.
Oh, fine.
I cannot believe how cold it was last week. And today it was like almost 60 degrees.
Yeah, about the same here. We've got 50.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I went for a walk today in my t-shirt. I was like, this seems weird. I was all bundled up last week and we couldn't go outside.
Yeah. Did they call off school there?
Yeah, just the one day on Thursday.
Okay.
It was really bad. But and there might have been another school that had to cancel on Wednesday too, but it's been far worse in Illinois because I can see on my Facebook feed, I can see all the school they've been canceling. And this was the first day that they actually canceled for us, which was funny. I looked outside and it was sunny And I knew the wind was cold, but it was sunny and there wasn't that much snow out there. The roads were clear. And there was a time right when we moved in November, we got a freak snowstorm. It was like 8 inches, and the buses were getting stuck and running late, and they never called a delay and they never canceled school. And I said, this is so weird that
Yeah.
that they have school for, and this, they cancel.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's great. People here are nice.
They were talking about how dangerous it can be, though, to have that cold, that the kids can really get hurt out there. So,
yeah.
I grew up in some of it, so it doesn't bother me too much, but it was even colder than I like. My husband does model trains, and he was communicating with somebody in North Dakota, and they said it literally was in the 50 below range there.
Wow.
The temperature itself. So that is Eskimo kind of weather, I think. I don't know. Not good.
I know I let my dog out to go out to the bathroom, and she just goes out real quick and comes back in. Well, she went out when that weather, and I said, hurry, Penny, go. And she went and she has to sniff around for the exact right spot. You know how they do when they're looking for a place to go number 2. And so she looks and looks and looks. And she looked over at me, and it was so cold. It's like she didn't know what to do. She just kind of slowed down, and she sort of laid there. Aww. And I said, it was so sad. It was like, I guess I'm just going to freeze now. I said, come in, we'll try later.
That's the one day you'd forgive them for having an accident inside, right? Don't tell her, but it could happen. Yeah. Poor baby. Aw.
Yeah,
mine likes almost to live outside, and he would go out and he would come right back in. So I knew it was cold. He has a huge winter coat on, but I don't know. So, well, we're still waiting for about 3 people, so let's keep hanging on here. I think if you want to look a little bit on your screen, I think there is a way. Well, let me say, and Mary and I were talking about this. On my screen right now, I have it set so that when I talk, my picture's big, and when you talk, your picture's big. I'm seeing you. So I think there is maybe up in the top right-hand corner of your screen, there might be some views. Does anything pop up there if you put your mouse up there?
I see a gallery view.
Yeah, try that. I don't know if that will work or not.
Yeah, it splits it into 3 different people.
Okay, so there's that which still isn't the same as I'm getting, but that's okay. And there's also, so now I'm on gallery view, but I'm on speaker view.
Yeah, when I click gallery view and it has it split pane like that, then when I go back up to the corner, I can hit speaker view again, and then it's just you.
It's just me. I wonder if I have it set somehow. Let me look. I'm learning myself, so let me see if I've got anything that changes here while we're waiting for people. I don't see it right now, so I'll try it next time we meet. Maybe I can figure that one out. At least we can all see each other small. And if you want it on gallery view, that's fine too. You might have to switch it when I go to present, because I'll have a PowerPoint, but I think that'll just take over your screen. I think that's how that works. If you slide your mouse down or way up or way down kind of in the middle, do you see a share there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's a share and there's a chat.
Yes.
And so chat would be if you just wanted to, you can either privately message me or you can message the whole group. So if I would have to mute everybody, for instance, there was a lot of noise, you could say something. Or if you just wanted to privately say, hey, Jenny, you got something hanging from your nose or something, you could, let me know. But those are available. My view's just a little bit different, than yours is. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this system just because it's fairly easy to use and I can have everything kind of ready to go. But why don't we give it about 5 more minutes, and if we don't get people, then we'll just go ourselves. And I'll figure out what happened to them. Let me see if I have any messages from anybody.
Okay, I'm going to run and grab a bottle of water real quick while we're waiting.
That sounds like a deal. That's a good idea. I left them on text message, or my text, but I don't know. Uh-oh. It sounded like you fell. All right. So Leslie, what looms do you have at home, or what loom? You said a table loom, right?
I have 2 table looms. One is a 15-inch that I got from Melissa,
Okay.
and the other one is the 26-inch that I got from I can't
Sheila.
think of her name. Sheila. Yes, Sheila.
Are they both
Thank
for
you, Mary.
harness?
And they're both for harness, and the 26-inch actually has a stand, or it has legs that you attach to it.
Oh, okay. And Mary, you said you have a shack, right?
Yes.
And how big is that?
Probably 18 inches.
Okay, so it's a table loom then too.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. That helps. So I've been keeping notes just so I don't give you bad advice, right? 18 inch. Okay. Well, I'm not sure. I know that I've heard from all of them, so I know people are intending to do this. But sometimes the first time you get on, it can be hard. Did either of you have any troubles?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, then
Your instructions were very clear.
Now we'll see. I had one time she had to even have her nephew come over and fix her computer. That didn't go well. But okay. Not sure. I think we'll just give it a couple more minutes.
Sure.
Well, Leslie, the Guild is having some workshops coming up, and this time we're having to meet at Schnucks because Joan is out traveling. So we're going to have a meeting there. We're not going to really do a program. We're going to do show and tell. So I'll try and tape some of that and put it on Facebook so you can see.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. The last one we did, it just didn't seem like Facebook was right. I don't remember what we were doing, but we'll try to do that so you can see a little bit.
Yeah, I love that you put that on there. It's nice to be able to join in, or at least see it after the fact sometimes, even if I'm not there.
And see
I did find a guild here in Rochester, and they seem to be pretty active. I went to their first. They had an evening guild meeting, and it was just a workshop. And I actually was talking to the lady that was there next to me, and she said their regular meeting is a daytime meeting.
Okay.
And that's when they have like their business meeting and everything. But this evening meeting they have at this Weaving and Fiber Arts Center that they maintain, and it was so cool. You would have loved it. There was like, I think they said they have like over 40 looms set up there, and they have classes all the time.
Wow.
And not just weaving, but a lot of different types of felting and knitting and all different kinds of creative art. So it was a really neat place, and everyone seems really friendly and nice. So I'll have to send some information to you guys and share the wealth.
Wow. We did you hear that our guild got several looms donated to them?
I think I did see that email that you sent out, or somebody, maybe it was in the minutes that I was reading. I don't remember, but it seems like or maybe Melissa just told me about it. Yeah. How many looms?
5 table looms, 13 Inca looms, and then a big loom that is I think it's a Weaver's Delight or something. It's a big rug loom, like 48 inches wide, but it is for harness because some of those are only 2. And so that one is actually going to go on the stage at the church. And Joan said that she checked with the pastor, and we can have it there and use it there. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Cool.
But it's big and it's a lot. So, all right, ladies. Well, we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'll catch anybody up that needs to get caught up. But Leslie, were you okay to get your materials off of that Schoology site?
Yeah, I got it. Got them.
Okay. Great. And I told Mary, this is a recording, and one of the reasons I picked that Schoology site is because I wanted to be able to put up so that you could see our, if you wanted to look back and see what we'd said or whatever, your video wasn't up on public. I don't like that either. So that's a place where just people in this class can go in and you can look at it. It's going to be kind of a long video. It's 10, 15 minutes long, but you can fast forward, I think, through it. I'll just put it up on YouTube on a private setting, and you'll have a link from there. I'll also put the presentation that I'm going to give so you can look back through that too, because it's got some pictures and different instructions, especially when we get deeper into the warping. So let's get started with that. I'm going to take over the screen and show you okay, can you see that okay?
Yep.
All right. There may be some lag if I'm talking, but it should pretty much keep up with you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing myself because you guys already know me. The people that are not here today, I'll make sure that they know who I am. But you all know that I own Hopewell Weaving and I teach, and this is the first time I've done this class officially. I did try it with a couple of people that I knew just to see, you know, how it would work and make sure that this worked out. So, and you both know each other, so we don't have to spend a lot of time with that. But do talk just for a minute about your experience with fiber. Like, what other things have you done? Because it's kind of interesting once you start talking about to people what other kinds of hobbies that they have, and even if it isn't fiber, if there's something important in your life. So, Mary, you want to start?
Okay, I'm Mary Griffin, and I like to do basket weaving. I enjoy basket weaving a lot, and I've done a lot of baskets. I have 2 rigid heddle looms, and I enjoy working on those. So my tabletop with the 4 shafts is a little intriguing to me, you know, with the warping it and everything, but I'm here to try it out.
Well, and I think people that have rigid heddle experience at least understand, they got some of the terminology, they understand, you know, what it is to warp something. You know, you're not clueless in that. You just need to fill in the gaps about how does this loom work and how can I do that? So that's great. Were you anything else that you wanted?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, Leslie, how about you?
I'm Leslie Guidry, and I am in near Rochester, New York. And let's see, I never got into fiber until I met Melissa, who pulled me in, as she does. No, she just, you know, loved yarn, and I couldn't help but love it once she, you know, pulled me into it. And so I love everything about it. Oh, although I should say I did always love to do cross stitch. So there was a little tiny bit of, you know, what I guess fiber type, you know, material that I worked with. But mostly I do like paper type crafts is what I like, scrapbooking and stuff like that. So once Melissa pulled me in to the yarn world, then all of a sudden I've done a little bit on rigid heddle. And she was starting to explain terminology to me. And that's when I did take one of your workshops, Jenny. It was one of those beginning ones. And it was before I knew anything about anything. And I didn't even know what I didn't know. And, you know, I wish I would have taken that after I had a little bit more exposure, because I think I would have probably retained more, because then I got these table looms, you know, after the fact, and I've been so afraid and intimidated to try to warp them I kind of got stuck. So that's why when I saw that you put this class together, I thought this is perfect. This will get me hopefully get me unstuck.
Good.
And get me warping it.
Good. And that's the kind of thing I was hoping. And, you know, when you take or learn a new skill, that you can only absorb so much at one time. And so if you start at almost knowing nothing, then you're going to get the, you know, a certain percentage of it, but then you've got to repeat, you know, a couple of times in order to get it. So, yeah. No problem at all. So you know, we're using Zoom and Schoology, so those were the products, but it sounds like you're on them. I did add today or yesterday a set chart. So if you ran your papers off a couple of days ago, then you'll probably see that there's a little bit more on there. And like I said, I'll be posting then the video and version of this presentation, so you can see that again too. And then each week I'll add, if we need it, handouts to the other. There won't be a huge amount of handouts, but by class then you'll know what's in there and you can get to it. And I will probably never close this. I mean, you can always go back and look at it, or have access to it. So the things we're going to talk about today about planning is what are you going to weave, and then 3 things about it: what size, what yarns, and what weave are you going to use. Okay, so those are the things I'm going to go through today. And you have the weaving record sheet in front of you. That's the one with the project sketch on it and the grid. There's a planning a weaving project sheet, and we'll go through that. That's a little bit more complex with a lot of numbers. And then a calculator. For today, you don't need it, but you'll need it to work on those sheets if you want to use that. I kind of pride myself that I can do multiplication on a piece of paper. So sometimes I just like make myself do that. And I refuse to use a calculator, but that's just me, kind of old school. So, okay. So the record sheet is the first thing we're going to talk about. So that's the one you want to pull out, okay? And I will tell you that I use record sheets all the time in my weaving, and these are my project books, and I would encourage you to somehow keep track. I have probably 3 or 4 project notebooks now, and I just put the next project in. I pull a sheet, either just a piece of paper or something that looks like what you have in front of you, and I make notes on it, and mine are organized just like the next project, so in time is how I do. But I just thought you'd like to see, there's one of mine. A lot of times if I can get a sample, maybe I had a little bit of warp left over, or I wove something to begin with to see how it would go, I pin it to that. You can see all my numbers. I was planning, can you see my arrow here on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you see that those numbers that go in a diagonal, that was just my blocks that I was planning for that project. But you can see up here on the grid, I didn't put my pattern in, and in fact, I often don't. It's in the book. I don't need to put it in again. So anyway, I hope that you'll consider doing that. And as a new weaver, then you can have a record of, as you go on, all the things that you've done. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you that now, is what is it that you'd like to make? And if you're not sure, maybe you could give us some options that you've been thinking about. So Leslie, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I think I want to start off with a scarf.
Okay. That's usually a good choice for one reason, because usually they're fairly narrow, which limits how many threads that you're going to do. When I have new weavers come to me and they want to do a 300 thread project, so 100 usually is about good for a beginner. If they want to do 300, I always kind of look askance, and some of them do fine with that, but that makes it a whole lot harder and a whole lot put more potential to have a mess on your hands that you have to straighten out. So, but people have their own tolerances. So how about you, Mary? I think we have somebody in.
I think also a scarf.
A scarf? Okay.
Yes.
Let's let Linda see if we can get her in. I don't see her picture coming up yet. But I heard the doorbell. All right, Linda, I might be hearing you, but I'm not seeing you yet. Can you hear us? Now her name has popped up. Linda, are you there? All right, I'm just going to keep going on, and we'll see if her picture comes in. All right, so then the next thing is that the yarns that you're going to use. And when Mary and I were talking a little bit before you got here, Leslie, we were talking about that she wasn't sure about her yarns. Do you already have yarn that you want to use?
No, I haven't picked any out.
Okay.
Hi, Jenny. This is Linda Hayes.
Hi, Linda. I can hear you.
Jenny, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me? I can hear you just fine. Now I see your picture.
Jenny?
Uh-huh. Can you see me? I'm waving at you. Try turning your volume up.
This is Linda.
Okay. Can you hear me?
having network problems, so I had to come in on my iPhone.
Ah, okay. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Up by your eyes. I don't know. Can you hear me? Oh, we just lost her again. Okay. Well, one of the things is if you order yarn this week and you don't have it in by next class, that's okay. All we're doing this week is figuring out your plan. All right. And even if you didn't have it for a couple of weeks, you can still get those first couple of lessons and then catch up. So I'm not worried about that at all. The yarns that I like to use with students, newer students, are yarns I use myself, and that's cottons and rayons for scarves. But wools are okay too. I'm just not as
Jenny, this is
Uh-huh.
Linda.
Hi, Linda. Can you hear me? Linda, I can see that you're online with us. Can you hear me? That's what I figured this first one would be like. We'd be struggling to try and get everybody
Jenny?
going. Uh-huh. Can you hear me? Sounds like the toilet flushing.
I'm hearing something.
Are you? Can you hear my voice?
This is Linda.
Uh-huh. I can hear you just fine. Can you try, let's see.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Wonderful. All right, good deal. I don't see your picture. Can you see a picture? Can you see the picture?
Right now I can't see you.
Okay. Now my phone's ringing, of course.
Oh, now I got it. I got you, Jenny.
Okay.
Mary.
Uh-huh. And Leslie. Are you working on a cellular network? All right. Well, I'm going to keep going. So the yarns, do you have any idea of where you want to go with a yarn? Mary,
Can you see me?
No, we can't see you, Linda. I can hear you though. Can you? Oh, she must have just left. Yeah, just gonna try again, maybe. Oh. All right. Okay. So, Mary, do you have any idea of what yarn you're thinking about using?
The yarn that we used at the GAMP camp.
Okay.
Can we use that?
Yes.
Extra of that.
Do you know what it was?
No.
It was probably pearl cotton.
Okay.
I can look it up. So, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
And do you want a source for it too?
No, I think I have plenty.
Okay. What do you have several colors or what do you have?
I do. I got 2 spools at the Christmas weave.
Oh, okay.
And I have a couple other partials.
Okay. One thing to know with yarn, if you look inside the cone on the bottom, a lot of times there's a label in there and it tells you what it is.
Okay.
So that, and it might say like 5/2 cotton or something like that. If you get a measurement. If not,
is that about the size you want us to use? 5/2?
Usually 5/2 cotton works okay. You have to be a little bit careful that cotton can get a little bit hard for a scarf. So you have to get a weave that, you don't pack it in real hard, or a lacy weave's nice because it has some openness to it. So we can talk about a specific weave for you. But yeah, that should work just fine. I've made scarves out of that. And I wouldn't go too wide either. I'd go more on the narrow side, but that might be what you're thinking of. I don't know.
So about how many inches wide would you suggest?
Usually what I do is I get out a scarf that I currently own and like, and see what that is.
Okay.
My scarves often are anywhere between 6 and 10 inches wide, and I
Okay.
tend more towards the smaller size than, the thinner than the wider. If you're going to wear it with a coat to keep warm, you'd go with the wider. If it's more decorative that you're wearing, just with clothing, inside clothing, then I'd go the thinner.
Okay.
6 inches probably fine. You can even go 4 if you want.
Okay.
How about you, Leslie? What are you thinking about for yarn?
I haven't really thought about it at all. So
Okay. One of the things
no idea.
I love for scarves is rayon or tencel or bamboo.
And I have accumulated quite a bit of knitting yarns, which are great with the rigid heddle, because it doesn't really matter, how chunky and funky they are. But I wanted to really stick with a weaving yarn when I was learning to warp the table loom. So I'm not sure what I have and what I might need to get. I know I have some of each of those things. I just don't know how much or, what size or anything like that.
One thing you might consider is buying weaving yarn for the warp, because you can put in anything in the weft. In fact, your friend Melissa, she does things like markers, and I don't even know what she does. She's crazy.
She's crazy.
Yes, she is. But
in a good way.
She's proven that you can pretty much put anything in the weft.
True.
And a believer of me. But if you have a nice strong weft, then that gives you that capability. And it also gives you a chance. Let's say you put two, long enough for 2 scarves on your loom. Your first one could be just kind of a standard woven scarf, and your second one you could experiment with your yarns that you have from your knitting.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And especially once you're comfortable with it and you can kind of see what it should do, but there's lots of options. Or you can just plan to do something in the warp and something different in the weft. That's fine. So, and you all know weft is the weaving part of it, and warp is what goes on the loom, right? Sometimes I use these terms. I want to make sure you know them. Okay. So if you are looking for rayons or bamboo or tencel, one of my favorite places is called the Earth Guild, and I put the link up on the Schoology site. Remember how we had those links? But also Yarn Barn and Webs and all those places. And today, one of the things you'll kind of do is figure out how much you need so that you have plenty for your loom. You both have table looms, and so your waist on the back of the loom isn't as big as mine would be on my floor looms. So usually about 18 to 24 inches is plenty of waist for you. I'd say more like 18. And we'll get to that. Okay, so there's yarns. And then the other thing is we need to talk about your pattern in order to decide what you're going to, how many threads that you need. So we'll talk about patterns in a minute. Looks like Linda's trying to get back in. Let's see if she can. There you are. Hi, I see you. Linda, I'm seeing you. Are you seeing us? I know the other 2 of you, it took a minute for you to get on. Linda, can you hear me now? Hi, Linda. All right, we're going to let her experiment, and I'm going to go on to the next screen. Linda, are you with us? I can hear you, I think. I can see her looking at her computer. Linda, are you there? All right. We're going to go on. All right, so let's talk about this weaving record sheet. So this is the one that I want you to, this is like the main sheet and has the things on it that I'd like you to fill out near the top. And so it starts out with what you're going to make. And that's that product description line. So you see that the first line on your sheet. And then what is your pattern you'd put in there, and you can draw it out on the grid if you want, or you might have it. A lot of times I'll just take my book and scan it on my computer and throw that in there. As far as, I just have a second sheet of paper in my record book. And then where the yarn, what yarns you pick out, can you see those signals there, those two words that say yarn? That's your weft yarn and your warp yarn. And I just put A2 cotton or whatever it is that I'm going to use briefly. Sometimes I'll put the colors if it's important for me to remember that. Maybe I'm in 2 different colors or something. Okay, so that's what's going to go on that record sheet. And the first thing, if you look back, you see where the project sketches, that empty box there. What I mean for you to do there is kind of draw out your pattern. Now, to draw something out like this isn't terribly necessary, and I'm going to come back to this slide, but if you're doing multiples, you can see where I've drawn it so that I can say, oh, okay, well, I start with some fringe. I've got about 8 inches of fringe, and then I've got my scarf. And then, I got to remember to have 16 inches of fringe in between them because I need 8 for this scarf and 8 for that scarf. And then on the end, I need another 8 inches. So that kind of helps me think about all those different numbers that I've got to add up to make sure I've got enough, or that my yarn is long enough when I'm measuring it out on the warping board. Okay? So if you look at this one before, the simple one, you say, okay, I'm going to make a scarf. And like Mary was asking, how wide is it going to be? And how long is the other question. So it used to be that people wore scarves that just kind of hung down, and they didn't go around their neck a second time. So scarves used to be less long. They used to be shorter. But now I usually plan about 65 inches long for a scarf. And again, if you've got scarves at home, get out a scarf that's the right length for you and measure it. And if you don't, you can take a measuring tape. Just remember that it's not as wide as a scarf. So when you go around your neck, you've got to kind of give yourself some bulk there, right? But I would say that 65 inches is it's okay. If you want to go, a plain 2 yards and think of it that way, 72 inches, because you're going to have a little shrinkage, that's fine too. But 65 is the woven length on this scarf, and then we're talking about the fringe being extra. So you have to add that in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at this picture again. And you can see my numbers then. I've got my 2 65-inch scarves, scarf 1 and 2. All of my fringes I added up. And then we were talking about maybe 18 to 24-inch loom waist for you. You don't want a scarf that's too short. So, spend a little extra, and you can maybe have some samples out of it or do something else with if you have a little extra. But for right now, I've made too many products that my second one I couldn't make as long as I wanted to, because it does use up more than you think. And so this particular one right here came out to 186 inches. Now, I haven't really had in mind any kind of shrinkage, not much take up, etc. So I'd want to add some to this. I don't know, when I divide 186 inches by 36, here, I'll get my calculator out. 186 divided by 36 comes out to about 5 yards. So, and that sounds about right to me with my experience. 5 yards for 2 long scarves is about right. If I do 1 long scarf, usually I do about 3 yards. And that gets me. And it's a lot of waste. So if you put a couple on at a time, you're not wasting as much, right? You have that loom waste each time, okay? So once you know your yarn, then the next thing you need to know is your set.
We have bacon.
I was worried somebody else was signing on.
No, that was my husband just came out.
Tell him he's going to be in my recording.
Recording now.
And so when we talk about your yarn, you have to fit it into the reed so it's the right width. And so often when I teach, I think one of the things people don't come away with is the ends per inch. So do either of you know what your reed is, what dent reed you have? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so on the side of your reed, it should say 12 or 10 or 8. Usually those are the common ones. And so that means that the holes, every 10 or every inch, there may be 10 holes or there may be 12 holes. So they're spaced that way, okay? And so within that inch, you have to put so many threads. And there's ways to figure that out. Don't let that panic you. But if you, let's do 10s. So let's say you have a 10 dent reed. So that means there's 10 holes for every inch. And let's say the yarn you pick is a 20 ends per inch. So 20 threads have to fit in 10. So what would you do about that? Do you know, y'all know the solution, or should I go ahead?
Go ahead.
I have to put 2 in every one.
Okay.
Right? So that gives me 20. So if I've got 10 holes and I get 20 threads in there, it's got to be 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. And now I've got 20 in that inch. And then the next inch has 20 and the next inch has 20, like that. Okay? So if, let's say now, let's keep with the 10s. Let's say I want a scarf that's 10 inches wide. And every hole has 2 threads in it. That means I'm going to have 200 threads, right? I'm going to get 10 times 2 in every one is 20. And then for 10 inches, that's 200, okay? We'll do the math, but that's the kind of math that we're going to figure out for your project. All right, so if you ends per inch, if you hear that and you hear the word set, those are they're talking about the same things. Say, what is your set? My set is 5 ends per inch. My set is 10 ends per inch. Now the yarn manufacturers, if you buy yarn from somewhere, they'll tell you, if it's weaving yarn especially, right on the page it'll say this yarn should be set at between 10 and 15 ends per inch. And I even put a set chart on Schoology, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, in fact, I have it on here.
So that's determined by the yarn you select.
Yep.
Is what defines your ends per inch and your set. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Now, if you're using knitting yarn, knitters don't think that way. They have so many stitches per inch, right?
Right.
So you have to figure that out. And there's ways you can wrap it around a ruler and see how
right.
You know, you've seen people do that.
I've seen that. Yeah. Okay.
It's less accurate, and especially knitting yarn, because it tends to be puffy and sometimes it'll fit in places where you wouldn't think. So anyway, but I can help you with that. It's not a problem. And there is a little bit of wiggle room in there. So, okay, so I'm going to go on to the next. Here's an example of that chart, the set chart, and it's on the Schoology site in our Class 1 folder now, okay? So you can get to that. So let's look up here at the top where it says cotton, and Mary, I think, has 5-2 pearl cotton. And so you can see, Linda, I see you again. Someday she's going to get in here. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? I think maybe I can hear you. All right. So Mary, if you'll look up at that paper, I don't know, are our pictures sitting on top of that right now? They are on my computer.
I moved you around.
Okay. So anyway, if you look at 5-2 cotton is about 2,100 ends or yards per pound. So they'll say how much per pound that is. I'm not sure what that is. And then they say tabby loose, tabby firm, and then the other one is twill. And they'll say, okay, 5-2 cotton should be set at 12 or 16, or I can't see that other number, probably 18, I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it? Okay. And so it depends on your what you're weaving. So let's say Mary said, well, I did GAMP camp and I know how to do twills. So she's going to set hers at 18 ends per inch.
Okay.
And then we'll figure out if you, for instance, have a 12 dent reed, that one's fairly easy because if every other thread is 2, so 1 and then 2 and then 1 and then 2, then 18 inches, that's 18 ends per inch in 12.
Okay.
So if you go 12 and every other one is doubled up, that's 18 threads. So I'm guessing that would work for you. Leslie, once you pick out your yarn, we'll figure that out, okay?
Okay.
Linda, can you hear us at all?
Yeah, now I can. Can you hear me? We're having major network problems, so
Aw.
and I just got home from being gone all weekend, and it's like, oh my God.
Well, I'll tell you what, how about if I keep going and then I'll loop back once these guys are gone and we can review what you don't have, okay?
Okay, I downloaded all the stuff. I did that last week.
Super. So what we're working on is the weaving record sheet. And I'm going to back up just a couple of slides to this one.
Okay.
So that's where we are. And by the way, Mary and Leslie, this is Linda, and she took my class was it last week or the week before? So we've met before. She's from Springfield, Illinois.
Who?
You are, you.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That's okay. And Mary and Leslie, I was just telling them a little bit about you while you're getting your things out. So we're working, Linda, on filling out the information in this sheet. And the easy stuff, I think, or the easier stuff is the first 2 questions. What do you want to weave? And then what pattern do you want?
Okay,
and
I
then
already know.
what
I'm doing a monk's cloth.
Wonderful. Okay,
some-
monk's quilt pattern.
Some coasters.
Okay.
And I have a pattern. I have the pattern.
Super. And is it the pattern I sent you or a different one?
I think
doesn't
it's the one that you sent me from Margie.
Okay, super. So that was something that we were working on in class. Okay, and do you already have your yarn, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, super. So we were beginning to talk about sketching out your project, and you can see on here that it's good to make a little sketch of what you want to do. And this is an example of a scarf, but if you want fringe on your coasters too, you might want to plan out how much fringe you want on them so that you make sure you leave a gap in your weaving for that. And then to add this all up. But we can go back and review this in a little while too. So we were talking about ends per inch. So that is how many ends in every inch or how many threads in every inch. And the reason that this is important is because when we get the warping boards out and we start to warp, you got to know how many threads to warp. So if you're making a scarf that's 8 inches wide or coasters that are 4 inches wide, how many threads do you do on your warping board? And that's how we figure that out. So I was using an example of if your thread is set up 10 ends per inch and you're doing a 10-end project, that's 10 times 10, that's 100. So that's how you get that number. And we have a worksheet that you can put all those numbers down. I know it's hard when I'm just talking through it. This set chart is on Schoology, and I just put it in there 2 days ago, so you might not have seen this if you ran things off a couple of days ago. But you can either save this on your computer or run it off. You can also find them on the internet, and your yarn dealer should be able to tell you if they're selling weaving yarn. They can tell you what ends, how many ends per inch to set that yarn for. Okay. So that's where we were. So then the other thing that you need to figure out is your pattern. And one of the reasons your pattern is important at this point is because you need to know how many threads to get to the end of your pattern. So let's take that 100 thread example again. And what if my pattern if I repeat my pattern a number of times and I end up with 102? Well, now what am I going to do? So what I would tell you is you either subtract or you add. Your scarf is actually going to be 2 threads less or 2 threads more, but you need to have enough threads for your scarf, for your whole, that you go to the end of the pattern. And I think Linda was in my overshot class a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about, and if you look at this pattern near the bottom of the page here, see how long that pattern is? That has 50 threads before it repeats again. Okay, so now if I have that 100 thread scarf, I probably want to repeat this twice, but I also want to have it end similar to how it began. So I would take these threads at the end here and copy them at this end and add those on. So my scarf would be a little bit wider so I could get both patterns and the end that looks right. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
At this point, I would suggest there's enough to learn as new weavers that you want a fairly simple pattern that you don't have to worry too much about that repeat. And there are some patterns, like the one at the top, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you didn't finish, let's say we did 1, 2, 3, 4, and we ended up 1, 2, you didn't finish that, that's okay. No one would ever know that those 2 threads weren't there because it's just a diagonal, and they wouldn't know how long that diagonal was going to be. But if you're at the bottom pattern, like that overshot that we were just talking about, you probably got circles maybe or shapes in your weaving, and if there's only half a shape at the end, now somebody's going to know about that. Okay, so it depends on your pattern.
Okay.
All right, so let's keep going. So you're going to say, what weaving pattern are you using? How many threads are in your pattern, and will the pattern be repeated? And most of you will not just have one pattern. You'll repeat it a number of times. Okay. All right, so now the 2 important numbers that I'd like you to try to come back with next time if you can, and if you can't, that's all right. We'll just keep working on this, are in these colors here. So the first one, the question is, how many threads are you going to need for your warp? And so here's an example that the kind of thing I've been talking about. Let's say your thread is 20 ends per inch. The manufacturer said, yep, that should be set at 20 ends per inch. And my product, my scarf, I want 10 inches wide. I do the multiplication. I got to warp 200 threads. Okay. And then the other question is the length of the warp, and you can see that here in orange. How long now will each thread be? And that was back when we were looking at this. How long is my project going to be? That's where that number comes from. Okay, so I added up all those things plus loom waste and shrinkage, and I get that number. And usually that is stated in yards. So I divide that by 36 and say how many yards. So when I put it on my warping board, I'm warping back and forth in yards. Okay. All right. So there, I gave you another sheet that's kind of complex, and it's definitely optional, but it's a way for you to figure out your warp and your weft, because some of you are going to need to buy yarn, and then the question is, how much do I get so I have enough and not too much? And so this sheet can be helpful with that, and it kind of steps through. But I will tell you too that there are sites. Let me see. And I put them on, I'm going to try to get back to that site there. I put them on our, sorry, I'm not seeing it. Never mind, I'm going to go back to here. I put them in Schoology also, those sites. There's calculators. So if you're not a big math person, don't worry about it. You can go on those sites and you can see them there, or you can have them do the calculations for you. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of this here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So if you'll pull up that second sheet, the one that's called Planning a Weaving Project, And on this presentation, I have an example. I've filled one out. So if you need to go back in and look at my numbers and say, you know, am I doing this right? That's fine. It looks like this. Can you all see? Somehow I'm paused on this. Hold on just a second. Okay. Can you all see the worksheet, the Planning a Weaving Project worksheet?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good deal. All right, so I'm gonna go on to, here's my example. And so I just filled one out so you could see it. And so at the top, I just said I want to make 2 scarves, and they're 10 inches wide by 65 inches long. So obviously you'd put in your numbers. And then by adding those up, finished length of the total piece is 130 inches, and that's those 2 scarves. So that's 65 plus 65, okay? The fringe and hems on the one that I was working on this example were 32 inches for that fringe. And then shrinkage and take up. So, I'm sorry, shrinkage and take up. So shrinkage is when you wash it, is it gonna shrink? Some materials do more than others. And then take up is when you weave over and under and over and under, that is gonna take up some of your yarn, right? It has to move a little bit. And so usually people figure about 10 to 20% in shrinkage and take up. So with my project, with that 130, 10% was 13. That's how I got that 13. All right. And then I put on a little bit extra for samples because I wanted to either have a sample for my book or I wanted to try it out first and make sure my yarn was correct, all those kinds of things. There it is. And then loom waste, how much ever you think is going to be on the back of your loom that you're going to cut off, and a little bit on the front where you tied that on. Maybe your fringe gets trimmed or you're not putting fringe at all. So you're going to lose some yarn, it just happens with weaving. That's how it is. All right, so then at that 203 inches, that's just, I added that all up. And then I come out with 5.6 yards for my warp. That would be that long, okay? When I go to my warping board and actually warp it, and we'll talk about that next time, do I have to have exactly 5.6 inches? No, maybe 5.5, I'm sorry, 5.6 yards, 5.5 yards if I can do that on my warping board, or maybe 6 yards. Maybe I even go down to 5 because I think, well, maybe I can have one of my scarves a little shorter if it needs to be, you know, it depends if you don't think you have enough yarn or something. I've done that before. But that, because I have that in yellow because that's an important number. That's one number that I need you to come back with next time. How long are you going to make that, okay? So in order to warp. Then the other part of warping is how many threads are in the warp. So how many ends, we call it. And so the finished width, I want it to be 10 inches wide, my scarf, but I know it's going to shrink some, and by weaving, it's going to pull in some, and it does quite a bit. It's kind of amazing how much. And so I figured out about 10%, which is 1.5 inches. So I think I'm going to have to make my, in the reed where I'm warping it, it's going to have to actually be about 11.5 inches wide so I get a 10-inch scarf. Okay, so I take that 11.5 and times 20 ends per inch, which is what my yarn is, and now I get 230 ends or 230 threads. That's how many I'm going to put on my loom. Okay, the bottom of the sheet then is for, oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to materials needed for warp at the top there. So now I've got 230 ends times 5.6 yards, and that's how much warp thread I need. Okay. So if I'm going to have to order yarn, there's my first number for ordering yarn. Then we're talking about the weft at the bottom of that. Again, we say, okay, my width of my warp, because now we're talking about weft, we're going back and forth. So it's going to have to go one way 11.5 and then back 11.5 and back and forth and back and forth. There's going to be some take up doing that too. And so it actually, the yarn you use is a little bit more than 11.5 and it's got to go around the end. So I figured out to be about 1 inch to be conservative. And so each time I throw the shuttle, I'm using about 12 inches of yarn, back and forth and back and forth. And so, and then I figure my weave is going to be about as many threads going this way as going this way. So I'm going to use the 20 again. Say 20 picks per inch, or 20 times every inch I'm going to weave. If I do that multiplication, I get 240 inches. I'm going to total length of finished project 130 inches. So is that right? 31,200 inches. Divided by 36 is 867 yards. Okay, so if I add up that 1288 up there with warp and the 867 with weft, that tells you about how much yarn I need to have to do this project. So a little over 2,000 yards. Okay. Now, if you look at 8-2 cotton, there may be about 2,000 yards on a pound of 8-2 cotton, or 5-2 cotton. So it's not, it sounds like a horrible amount of yarn, but really a couple of pound cones will get you a scarf, most likely. You get a feel for it after a while, and like me, you get a large collection of yarn. So you have things to pull off the shelves. But so this sheet, you don't have to do this sheet. You can figure out the other one, but I think this is a good one for figuring out how much you need to order if you do need to order it. And remember, I gave you a couple of links that there's online calculators like this that you can just plunk them in. And what I noticed is that the yarn companies now seem to have these because they want you to buy yarn from them. They're very smart, so they'll put it in, and you could put your numbers in and just figure that out. If you want to run those numbers by me, you get that done, and you say, "Hey, Jenny, that's what next class is for." Or if you're getting your yarn ordered and you want to do it before, just get a hold of me. That's fine. You got my email or probably my phone number, and just if you want to make sure before you order, I'm happy to do that. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this? All right. Nobody's left yet, so that's good. Like turn off the computer and go. So, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And so if you can get most of your weaving record sheet done as far as the sketch and those numbers of how many ends and how long your project's going to be, that's what you need for next class. Okay, the rest of it is just ways that you can get there if you want. Okay, so if we go back up to this, you see those are the two things that we really need to have you know. And then I would suggest that you fill out the rest of the top of this just so you kind of have your project started. Okay, all right, so for next time, I will be talking about winding the warp just on the warp board. That's the step that we're going to do next time. So you don't have to have these supplies for class, but this is what you need to do the next thing. And it's yarn, warping board and items on the supply sheet, and a record sheet with number of threads. So that's the record sheet we're talking about today. So I will have a supply sheet in the class number 2, and that's things like scissors and a tape measure and a hook to pull it through the reed. Probably things you have already. I would think most all of you have those. Okay. So your homework is that record sheet with the number of threads and how long each thread will be. And then here's just a look at where we're going with all this. You've seen this before, but class 2 is just winding the warp, just putting that on the warp board. So after that class, and the idea is during that week, then you do that part. So not this coming week, but the week after, okay? And then class 3 will talk about how to take it off the warping board, put it on the loom. Class 4 is then going through the heddles and tying it on the back, and then class 5 is tying it on and weaving. Okay, so it'll take a long time. That's one thing I wasn't sure, having this only once a week, it really stretches it along. If you're at a place where you can do more or you can't get it done, don't stress about it. This is my pace, and it doesn't have to be your pace, but this is how we'll work our way through the knowledge, okay? So what questions can I answer?
So do we need to have our pattern that we want to use?
Yeah, yep. That is something, if you haven't picked out your pattern yet, that would be good. And so, Mary, probably you and I should email back and forth. Do you want me to go to that GAMP camp and pull out those patterns from it? Is that one you're interested in? Not the GAMP, but just one of the stripe patterns?
Sure.
Okay, I can send those to you. I mean, you're welcome to do the GAMP too, but it's a little more complicated.
Right.
But if you look at yours and maybe say, I like this one,
Okay.
I've got those all recorded, and that's easy.
Okay.
And most of them are pretty simple, easy to do pattern. All of them are. They're fairly short. I think the longest one maybe was 8 or 10 threads for a repeat, so they're not bad at all. And Leslie, what did you say you were?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I kind of had tossed in my head, like, I might want to do, like, I definitely don't want to do just plain weave again. I want to do something, a little bit different, but not too complex. So I was thinking maybe like I don't know, like a simpler pattern. I don't know, maybe even like a log cabin or something.
Okay.
But I'll pick something unless you have suggestions.
No, but anything with a twill is fun because you can do lots of different things with it. What books do you have for patterns? Do you have anything?
I do. I actually, I love books, so I've accumulated quite a few books. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm like overwhelmed, and I don't even know, just where to dive in, just to start out. So
do you have the green Marguerite Davidson one?
I do. Yeah, I do have that.
So that one would be very appropriate. And why don't you go through there? I have the same book, so that makes it easy. So we can say, I can give you advice easily on it.
Okay.
And there's like almost everything is in there. So, whatever you pick should be just fine. I know they're all 4 harness weaves. And so if you just say, I want that one, then we can accommodate you really easily that way.
Okay.
Even during classes.
I'll look through it, and then I'll sort of run it by you and kind of go from there.
Sounds good. When you look through it, find out how many threads there are for a repeat. So just see how many that they've got. That'll be helpful to me.
Okay.
To know. So, and Linda, you said the monk's belt, and I don't remember how many threads that was going across.
I've got it printed out here, but it's on the other side of the room, and I don't remember, but I'll have it all for next week.
Okay. It's a nice simple weave. You can make any of those blocks bigger too. So you know how it goes 1 2 1 2 1 2. You can keep that 1 2 going on for a while if you want, to make it the size you want. So that one's
I like the looks of the one, Marjorie's pattern. So
yeah, I did too. That was really pretty. Okay, so let's do that, and we will same time, same place next week. And Linda, if you want to stay on just for a few minutes, I'll make sure that you have any questions answered. But otherwise, I'll see you other 2 ladies next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Let me know if I can help you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
okay.
All right. So Linda, yeah, I didn't tell him how to end the program.
Oh, I'm trying to figure that out.
I think it might be oh, there she goes. Okay. So why don't I back all the way up, and let's just make sure that you have the knowledge. It's hard for me to make sure that you know. And I'll talk to you just a little bit. Is there anything in particular though that you were feeling like you were confused about?
Did I lose you?
I'm still here.
I'm just getting a blurb that says my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah. You might have to sign back in. Can you hear me?
Well, yeah, I'm okay. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Sometimes, yeah, internet does that. So can you see the picture at all?
Yes.
Okay. So is coming in the middle, before I start this, is there anything that you were terribly confused about that you want me to clear up first or?
No,
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine with picking up where I came in.
Okay. So I'm just going to flip through these real quick. We'll stop and talk a little bit, but I think most of this you already have. You know me. So I don't need to introduce myself, and I know you, so we don't need to do that. And I saw you got on Schoology okay, and got
Yes.
all your information. And I apologize if you already heard this, but this is being recorded, and I will put that recording in a folder on Schoology with a link. So you can
Okay.
rewatch anything you want. This one you may not need to, but if you wanted to go back. And the reason I use Schoology is because the only people that can see those recordings and hear us talking is this small group of people. So it isn't, even though it's posted on, YouTube and stuff, it'll be private. It's all passworded and everything, okay?
I was impressed. I think it's great.
Well, good.
It's my first time. It's my first experience with Schoology, but it
Yeah,
seemed good to me.
it's a nice site, and it's been easy to post things, and it's made for students, and for making sure that the teacher has control of what's going on and that other people can't be messing around with it. So I like that a lot. So so we've already talked about, do you know what size you want those to be, the
The
coasters?
coasters,
Uh-huh.
and I'm thinking 4.5 by 4.5
Okay.
with maybe I want the fringe just to be small, so I'm thinking
Sure.
maybe an inch or less of fringe.
Okay. And what is your background thread going to be?
What is my background
Your
thread
your
going to be?
your warp
Oh,
thread.
I think black.
Okay. And do you know what size?
Let's see. The what do you call it? The tabby needs to be thinner than the
Uh-huh.
warp and the weft. I
Uh-huh.
think the warp and the weft are 8.2,
Okay.
and then the tabby will be, let's see, uh, maybe an 8.4.
Okay. Sounds good. Actually, an 8.4 will be thicker, so you might want to.
Okay, I need to go the other way.
Yeah.
10.2.
Oh,
That
so
makes sense?
10.2. Yes, that sounds good. Okay, so 10.2. Do you already have your yarns?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm already accumulating quite a stash.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
It has not taken me long.
Okay, and so do you already know the set for the 8.2 cotton?
I don't. I think it's 20.
Oh, that sounds about right. So you might want to, there's a chart that I mentioned, so you might want to just double check it. And I would set it as the loosest one that they have. They call it a twill setting. So I'm sorry, or the medium one, but 20 sounds good. Okay.
What I don't know, I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm going to be using a loom that I'm going to borrow from Jubilee Farm, and I'm not sure of which loom I'm going to be using.
Okay.
So I'm hoping between now and the next few days I'll know that, and then I don't know what kind of a reed it has in it. So,
Okay.
But 20 is about it.
All right. And, get as far as you can as far as your calculations. And then next week, I can answer any questions. There's just a small group of us. It doesn't mean you have to have it all set and, ready to go necessarily. So we can check that. But
It'll be done.
yeah, you've got an idea about what
That's
you're
the way
doing.
I am.
It's not a very decisive. It will be done. So, okay, that sounds good. And so then that about catches us up to where I was before, because this is the sheet then that I kind of started with you with. Do you have any questions in particular, though?
Not at this point. I was interested to see what you used in terms of your waste. I've been using a yard for waste,
Uh-huh.
and usually end up with quite a bit left. So it's like, do I want to take a chance and lower that number?
Well, in making coasters, they're nice and small, so if you were a little off, that's fine. But for a table loom, I usually use between 12 and 18.
Oh, okay.
Probably more like 18.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't want to run out. Are you making them for a certain purpose, like you need to have so many, or?
Yes, I'm debating, do I want 4, 6, because they're probably going to go into our gift shop at Jubilee Farm.
Okay, so you need a set of them.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, if you put a couple of yards on, you can make quite a few, because you're only doing 4 and then maybe 2 inches between them.
Yeah.
So how are you going to finish them off, do you know?
How am I going to finish them off?
Yeah, so when you cut them off the loom, will you use a little zigzag machine, a sewing machine to zigzag them, or are you going to tie little knots, or what's your plan?
Well, I was planning on just doing the hem stitch,
Oh, perfect.
And see how that goes. I have a sewing machine that has the zigzag. I also have a serger that I've never learned how to use.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah. I think that hem stitching is great, and it's nice and flat for a coaster. So if you accidentally set the glass on it, it wouldn't be a problem. And then you don't waste a lot, because all you need to have is the fringe pretty much that you're going to have for the project.
Yeah.
You might want a little extra so you could trim it if you need to, but.
Yeah, I'll probably use a rotary cutter to trim it. So
yeah, I do the same.
I was planning on putting a little extra in there anyway.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think the biggest issue for you is going to be taking that pattern and figuring out how to fit it into 4.5 inches once you know how many ends per inch you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help you with that, because you may have to stretch those blocks, or you may have to repeat something, or you can decide.
Yeah, because I haven't gone the next step. I mean, I've got the pattern, and I know what yarn is, but I just haven't sat down to calculate, how I need to put that onto the loom.
Yep, sounds good. All right, well, if you need some help, and you can, because you bought that I Weave It program too, right?
I did, and I have been playing with it.
There you go.
I've took about 3 days just to get away. And I did a lot of playing with the Weave It program.
Nice.
So I'm really anxious to use it to help with the warping and the threading. So.
Good. Well, if you take the WIF file that I sent you and put it in, and you might have already done that, then you can play with the size of those blocks on there and get how many ever threads you need. So you're in. You got it. Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else I can answer or do for you at this point?
No, but I just want to thank you again. I just thought the weekend was so good, and I learned so much.
Wonderful. So. Well, next time if you come, maybe I can put you up too, because it's I don't offer it to people I don't know, just because I don't know who's here, but we certainly have a spare room if you're coming all the way from Springfield.
Yeah.
So,
and I know that Linda Floto is looking for someone to host you. Okay. I don't know if you want to stay in a convent or not, but we have plenty of room at our place.
Well, I'd be glad to. That sounds like fun. So whatever works out for y'all.
I have to tell you, I hosted. I was attending a workshop for some business stuff, and I hosted the gal who stayed with us. She had a hoop, because you know, we had polka dot sheets on the bed, and she said, polka dot sheets in the convent. So,
You never know.
yeah, we're pretty normal.
You have all these conceptions about what it's going to be like, what you see in the movies or whatever. So yeah,
Right.
no, that'd be lovely.
Well, I'll
So,
get in touch with Linda Floto
okay,
then and let her know. Maybe somebody else has already offered by now, but
okay,
as of over the weekend, nobody had yet.
okay.
So,
All right. Well, whatever works out. So, all right. Well, I'll see you next week about this time, and hopefully it'll be easier for you to get on this time, huh?
yeah, um, I had to go off and come on back on about 3 times. Our network is kind of flaking right now. So,
Okay. Well, the system is always open. So if, next time you want to try it about 2:45 or so,
yeah,
you can do
yeah,
that. It won't hurt anything. Um, I don't
yeah.
close it up. So, okay.
Okie
All
dokie.
right. Well, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah,
Take care.
thanks, Jenny.
Bye-bye.
Bye.